On this episode of Before Brunch, we're talking about representation in unique career fields. Today's guests include Cherie Williams, owner of Uncommon Redesigns, Ryan Wynn, owner of R. Wynn Collective, Nate Chisholm, co-founder and COO of BestLink Strategies, and Lena Fuller, founder and CEO of BestLink Strategies.
Thanks for tuning into Before Brunch TV. Today we're talking all about unique careers and unique spaces. You know, when you leave somebody else's space to start your own, that can be so amazing. So I have some great guests here. I have Nate, Lena, Cherie, and Ryan to talk about what they do and how they've gotten into this really amazing space that they're in. So most of you have left like somebody else's, we call it else's space, or you're kind of co-working in somebody else's space to start your own. Talk about that process.
Well, for me particularly, Nate and we have an IT company, BestLink Strategies. So for me, I actually was in the healthcare space for 12 years prior to even getting into IT. So that alone was kind of a scary situation to even think about. You know, I've only known medical, coding, you know, EHR, health records, stuff like that. So getting into the realm of IT and not necessarily having my own kind of roadmap and footing, it was a little nerve-wracking, but you know, I found my way to kind of push through to get into that field myself.
Thinking about like just women in IT in general, usually it's typically like white men.
Exactly.
So,
male dominated
yeah.
as well, yes. So
Right.
that was challenging too.
And a little bit coming from me, I was in higher education, full-fledged. So advising, being a professor, and then switching and on the liberal arts side, and then switching completely to STEM, to cyber. A lot of people were looking at me like, I don't see you doing that because your personality, you're a social butterfly. And then the connotation of people in IT and cyber are antisocial.
Creeps.
Right. Weirdos.
Yeah, you know, they live in their mom's basement with the big command center with headsets on and play Xbox all day. And people say, I can't see you doing that, Nate. And you're so good at what you do in this space, almost putting me in a box. Not knowing that I had aspirations to do other things. So transitioning from that was pretty different. And then like Lena said, it is a white male dominant industry. Not even just male, but white male dominant industry. And then coming into an industry as a man of color, people look at it as well like, I just can't see you doing that. Yeah, so navigating from that space to the current space, it's been interesting, but it's been so rewarding on so many levels. To the point where now I have my own company with my CEO, Lena. And we met prior to starting the company as she used to be my project manager.
Nice.
But we both had aspirations on building our own business. And then we kept in touch and then boom. But that space allowed that to happen. And I can only imagine what's gonna happen after that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, for me, I'm a serial entrepreneur, so this was like my 5th time around. But in between, if things didn't go the way I wanted to go, I go get a job. It was my security blanket. So the process for me was really just me being totally fed up with the cycle of going back and forth from that other space to creating my own. And for me, the big thing for me was I got COVID. And during that time, it was a very dark, I was in a dark place because at the time we really didn't know, we still don't know a lot about COVID-19 and what like the lasting effects it will be. And so I get emotional, I can't believe I'm getting like a little emotional thinking about it, but I was laying in bed, I had just informed my job that I had COVID. And I kid you not, they were like, well, can you still do this project and I'm like, this is very telling for me.
Yeah.
And it was a moment where I was like, you know, I don't know what it's doing to my body. I feel weak right now. I can't taste, I can't smell, you know, and I can barely walk right now. And you're telling me to go get my laptop while I'm not supposed to leave this room. I have a family. And so I sat there and was like, this is it. Like, what if, and I know this sounds negative. I'm not a negative person, but you know, this has been a really
real.
It's
Yeah.
real. It's real though. It's real.
But I was just thinking, I knew I was gonna survive it. It's not, I don't want y'all to think like I was over there thinking I was gonna die.
Right, right.
But I was just thinking like, I wonder if it's just shaving off a little bit of the life that I had before I got it. Like if I was gonna live to like 90, but now I'm only gonna live to 80, you know?
Yeah.
And I know
Yeah.
that sounds crazy, but we all had a lot of thoughts, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking that was it. I was like, I don't have the time to do this cycle anymore. I'm not getting any younger. So I was like, that's it. So I used that 14 days of quarantine to map out my exit, my permanent exit. So the process it wasn't easy, it was kind of scary, but it was kind of like that confirmation. You know, people are like, I just need confirmation. Well, that was it for me. So once I made the transition, of course, I'm in it now. I told them I'm out. Here's your 2-week notice. That part, scary, pandemic.
Right.
You know, people are like, okay, so you have a in-person workshop during, you know, but I worked my jelly, and I'll get into details with that later, but you know, it worked out.
Really dope. So I actually have been doing event planning for years, but I also worked in venues, Marriott, convention centers, things like that. And I was in a place where I didn't really like being there anymore. And I was like applying for jobs and interviewing for jobs, and nothing was coming back. And so it kind of got to the point where it was like, okay, Lord, I know I ask you to move anything out of my way if it's not for me, but none of these are for me.
Like I know,
Like something has to be for me. And in that moment, it was like, but now what? And I feel like, or I went to him again and I was like, so what do you think about me like going full time? Like, I know I've done it on the side for years, but what about full time? And I literally feel like he told me, Negro, I told you could do this a long time ago. I'm waiting on you to go out and flourish. And so I left my corporate job in 2019, and I've literally, through pandemic, I don't think that 2020 was a bad year. Yes, I feel bad that people have passed away, and that was horrible, but it's been amazing for me in just my transition. And even like you were saying that I had confidence in, because I was already working for myself once the pandemic hit, versus had I been working for it, you know, the events industry and venues got hit hard. So you couldn't do anything like as far as venues. So now I would have literally been sitting at my desk each day like, when they gonna tap me on my shoulder and tell me I gotta go. And so having that confidence and having that stepping out on faith just gave me so much more confidence to be able to do what I needed to do and survive. And I had to refocus last year too a little bit, but it's just been a great transition from then on.
Yeah. And with you all being in such unique spaces in your field and not seeing that representation, did y'all have any role models growing up that were in the field doing the things that you were doing?
To a degree, a friend of mine, his mother, she's been in cybersecurity for about 15, 20 years. Prior to cybersecurity, it was called IA, Information Assurance, because cybersecurity is relatively a new term.
Okay.
Kind of really got coined in 2012, 13. And then this whole thing with cyber, because now we live in an app age. We live in a digital age, everything. Our phone is like our life. Our phone knows us more than we know ourselves.
Yeah.
They even create our own, they even create photo albums.
Yeah,
They-
it's really
yeah.
weird.
Right.
Like, you can be talking about something that sometimes if your listening devices on there, put an ad,
Yes.
or a cookie in there, like, how did you know I was doing this? But so with her, I didn't really speak to her as much about it, but I think I was blessed just to know in the back of my mind, someone that I know closely, they do that. They're in that field. But and I think that's the issue. I can just say, Lena and I talk about all the time, that's cybersecurity. A lot of people in our community can't reach out to anybody.
Right.
So a lot of us, we can
They
reach
don't
out
have
to
a point of contact.
right, and we can reach out to a teacher, someone, a nurse practitioner, or a nurse, or someone working at the shipyard, or someone within that. That's all tangible to us.
Right.
But when I say, talk to somebody in cybersecurity in your community, in our community, we don't know anyone. And we need to change that.
Yeah. And for me particularly, I actually had no role model or example of it because again, it's male driven. I didn't know anyone in my family, especially women that were in the field of technology. So I really only saw what was modeled in front of me based off of the IT companies that we hired within my healthcare organizations that I worked for. Seeing what they had to do when they came in, seeing what I didn't like about them, you know what I mean? And kind of just deciphering, is that kind of a field that I could get into? Because I always had a knack for computers, working in these offices. I was like the unofficial, IT girl, So just seeing kind of like how they worked and the levels of the contracts that they had and what they did, it just kind of opened my mind to more for myself. Because I was a single parent. And a single parent, that income that I had at that time, it just was not going to sustain my life. And so I knew I had to make that decision. And so I just started researching, how to get into the field of technology.
Y'all hit on something about other careers that are so attainable. Somebody's a lawyer, a doctor, whatever.
Right.
Same thing for me, like working in TV. of course, you see people on TV.
Yeah.
Nobody's
like
ever
you.
attended. Like,
Right.
it's like your
Right.
local news anchor. It
Exactly.
just seems so far away. So when I tell your family, like, oh, this is what I want to do, they're like, okay, that's cute, because it's seen as like a hobby, not like, oh, you're
Right.
really gonna make a career and you're not gonna go to a network. You're really gonna create your own thing.
Right.
Like, oh,
Right.
that's fun. Okay, you do that on the side, but no, like you have to like be that representation. And so now young girls can come to me like, oh, I like your show or this and that. I think that's amazing. So having that representation, y'all are exactly right, is so important. Cherie, what about you? Because you're in such a strange, not even strange, it's strange in the best way possible, because I came to one of your workshops, like this art therapy. You don't see Black girls doing art therapy at a venue of their own.
Right. Just like them, you know, the traditional, hate to say it, you know, Black family, no one preached or talked about entrepreneurship in my household.
Right.
If anything, they wanted us to go to school, get that good job, get that government job.
Right. Pay the bills.
Blueprint.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And get that consistency.
Exactly.
But I will say, my mom, single mom, at some point, my mom was trying to stay progressive, you know, try to stay with the times, and she was a hairstylist. And in a way, they kind of act as an entrepreneur, but at the same time, they don't, you know. So when I would tell her about my I called them side gigs, and I stopped calling them that for a reason. But when I was in my early 20s, I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna do this little side gig. And my mom was like, oh yeah, very supportive. But when I started being like, I wonder if I could like do this and not go to work. And she was like, wait a minute, hold up, gotta get that check. So
Right.
I didn't have that in my life, but I will say there were certain people who were not in this industry. I mean, it's a very unique one, and I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I want to say that I'm kind of creating something just a little different, period. But I had people in my life, a distant aunt who had her own fashion line, and it's kind of like similar to what you're saying, you know, no, I'm not in, you know, these stores. I'm doing my own thing at my house, and people are coming and they're buying it off of my site. And so that was encouraging. That made me feel like, if she can do it, I know I can do my own little thing. She's doing what she loves and she's doing what she's good at. I'm good at doing all this kind of arts and crafts and doing furniture. Why couldn't I, you know? So that was encouraging. So I think I had just enough courage to just go on and just stay in this. Well, I'm no longer in that cycle, but to enter that cycle, which eventually is what really thrusted me into just ending the cycle of going back and forth into someone else's space versus creating and building and scaling up. That was always my part. I would build it. I'd build the space. Everybody would be like, oh, this is so dope. And then I would just go dead and flat because I too was a single mom and I was a young mom.
Struggle, yes.
Woo! And so, you know,
Same here.
I will struggle. I will eat a box of cereal and eat my noodles,
Girl,
but
yep.
then you're not going to do that to your child,
Yep,
you know?
exactly.
I was going to move to New York, and I went out there for a month and was going to live and sleep on my friend's floor. I was like, girl, just give me the pillow and the blanket because I was ready to rough it out. But I got a 5-year-old daughter.
When you
I
got a
can't
child,
do that
it's
with
different.
her.
Exactly.
So there were some things that did kind of hold me back, but there was that sweet spot. And like you said, 2020, tough year. I will never forget this year. Stressful year ever. But at the same time, it pushed me. And I'm grateful for it.
Yes.
And so this was that perfect time. That little girl is now 17, about to be 18 years old. So I don't have to coddle her and she's good, you know, and I was kind of pushed.
Yeah.
So
Well, you said something really
amazing.
powerful too about you stopped calling what your passion was your side gig. I think we all do it because I feel like in our communities, it's like, oh, like I said before, oh, that's cute. Like, oh, he does events. He does nice. He does art therapy. It's like, it seems it's like almost looked down upon where it's like, I have more freedom than you do. You don't even know that you're trapped.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So calling this stuff, and I don't mean
That
trapped,
was
like,
it.
there's nothing wrong with like being, like my whole family is educated, so there's nothing wrong with that. But when you know you've been called to do something else, it's not a side
Exactly.
gig. Now you're walking in your purpose. So that's
Exactly.
something totally different. And Ryan, what about you and the role models that you've had?
10-year-old Ryan wanted to be an architect. Like, I was going to
can
school to
see
be
you
an
as an
architect. Like, third grade. Back in, I don't even know if they do that now in school, but career day, I had a
do.
briefcase
They
and I had, I don't have kids, y'all have kids, yeah, so let me know. But I had blueprints because my dad worked for the city, and so he got me that literally until I got to college and went through my first year. And I don't even know in that realm if I had role models or knew people that were doing it. But once I got to school and went through my first year, I was like, okay, Lord.
Wait, were you majoring in architecture?
Yeah.
And you was like, hell no.
I can't do this.
We can't do this no more.
This is not it.
Like, look at these blueprints for life.
Yeah.
Right. This ain't it. This
And
ain't
that
it.
was it. I was like, I'm a little energetic. I can't sit at a drafting table for the rest of my life. Like, that's not going to be it. But while I was in school, I was involved in organizations and just doing different things. And event planner kept popping out. And at that time, too, my idea of an event planner was Jennifer Lopez, the wedding planner. And I'm like, boys don't do that. Like, that's not, so no, like, I don't want to do it. So, but multiple people, and I was planning fashion shows, I was planning concerts while in college, still not thinking that's what it was.
Right.
But my father, who I would say would be the role model of it all, he had told me event planning. And I'm like, this man has worked for the city of Chesapeake for umpteen years. He don't know nothing about event planning. But now that he said it, let me go and research what event planners were. So I found out there were project managers. I found out you could be a coordinator. Like, there were so many other realms of it that I was like, oh, this is actually what I do when I plan the fashion shows and the things like that. And so I started to research more and found out other people of color that were doing it. And now more days you see, because I do interior design as well, you see on HGTV like different people of color that are doing it. So it feels good that now the other people that are coming up have it. It was just that I didn't necessarily have that, you know, back then.
Yeah, having the knowledge is key.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, just that information, when you're marginalized from it, it's like, that's all you know. That's where you come from.
Yeah.
But for the fact your
access,
father planted that seed and then allowed you to like look into it further, but now you can plant other seeds.
Right.
It's like the whole talented 10th, learn one, teach one. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that too, when you think about like event, how you said your knowledge was the wedding planner, right? But like when you think about like Black men in careers in certain spaces, it's just like there's some things that I feel like, you know, oh, this might not seem as masculine, or this just seems too whatever. So seeing like Black men in event planning space, like, oh, like the little boy who likes to like shift things here and there, oh, he sees you, now he's excited that you can, like, this is a career path, like you can make coin off of this and be straight, like that's amazing.
Facts.
And so what do y'all feel like some of your skills have been like undervalued or questioned because of who you are within your field?
Girl, yes.
We all know we all know as women, they're always.
Yes.
But I mean, just in your specific skill, like when you present yourself, is your skill like questioned?
But I think just like you were just saying, with me being a male event planner or interior designer,
you do this.
it's literally like, But
it's like you have to prove it more.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, and for all of us, it's learning your market, learning your audience. So I've realized that for wedding planning, because that, even though Jennifer Lopez was like, no, I don't want to do that, that ended up being my niche. But my primary audience and client is a type A woman. That woman doesn't want to work with another woman. Ding, ding, ding. You can work with me. And so that's literally been what
found your market.
Yeah. So I think that's sometimes how I've been able to refocus that just to figure things out.
Wait, so there's like specific clients, you know, okay, this type A person is a person who doesn't work with other women. What's the type B? Is there a type B?
I don't even work with them.
Oh, okay.
The hell
On that, but honestly, in the interior design world, I ended up being that client more so was ones that they don't have a clue. I know colors, I like this color, and then I just run with it from there. So it's kind of, that person is not the type A person. That the type A woman knows what she wants.
Right.
She has that planner, right?
And she got the budget.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
For me particularly, I would say I faced a situation where I didn't definitely want to be judged just by my outer appearance, honestly. You know, when I took a government job up in DC, I worked for the Defense Security Service up there, and I was in a position of high leadership where I had to brief rooms of 15 to 20 men, and maybe be like about 2 of us women in there. And I remember like being at home, looking in front of a mirror, and literally telling myself to bun my hair back and not actually have my natural curly hair out, because I don't want to be judged by the way I look, because I want them to hear what I'm delivering, you know, in regards to my work, you know. So I didn't want to be looked at like that. So I had to make that conscious decision every day that I'm sure men don't have to do, you know, just to feel like I would be respected, you know, by my work and what I'm saying, you know.
Or
so that's
do you put on like makeup? Do you want to make yourself like appear more attractive? Or it's like, are people listening to what I'm saying? Or are they just looking at what I have on? That's so real.
So it's real.
The business that I have now is actually a relaunch. I actually started this business in 2016, and I say by accident just to kind of catch people's ear. I was just feeling a need. I was pregnant at the time, and I could not afford the Pinterest pins that I was pinning for my nursery. So I ended up getting a hand-me-down crib and an armoire because our room didn't have a closet for our baby. So I was gonna like transform this closet or this armoire into like a clothing storage and thing. And I wasn't thinking about making anybody's money. I was just trying to fulfill a need. So I do it, I post it online, and just fast forward, people are like, oh, you need to start a business, can you do it for me? And I'm like, well, not for free. So that's what started Uncommon Redesign. So that redesign is actually redesigning furniture. Now, I start my business, and I realize I'm in all the furniture groups on Facebook, and I'm realizing I'm not seeing too many brown people. And they exist, they're just not in that space, but I'll talk about that later. You know, so I was like, okay, and I got scared, I'm not gonna lie. I ran my business successfully for 2 years, left my job, because you know, that cycle. And I never put my photo on my website. There was no signs of who I was. And according to the others, I code switch. So when they would call, we would have a consultation about what kind of furniture they want. They would tell me what colors they like. We'll just go through the whole process. And they honestly wouldn't see me until delivery day. So my husband and I would show up with our shirts on, and I'll never forget, we're moving the furniture in. And she goes, oh, tell Cherie I love it. And I was like, oh, she thinks we're the help. Okay, okay. And I was like, oh no, I'm Cherie. And I'll never forget, it's that, oh!
And they try to act excited,
like, oh,
you're Cherie.
Oh, you know, it was funny because I didn't put my face on my website. I didn't put any of, even on my social media. If you go to my social media right now, you scroll down, you see nothing of me, nothing. But then you scroll up and you start to see me. So it kind of confirmed that, oh, there's something, there's an energy about it being there. Me. Oh yeah, I'm chocolate girl, you know, and I produced this thing that was better than you imagined. So after a while of that, I started kind of enjoying it. I was like, oh, let's see. My husband about it, let's see if they think we're gonna be the help, you know. And it went on for a while, and then finally, when I moved here, I'm a military spouse, so we relocated from Florida, where I was booming and banging, and it was just really hard for me to reestablish myself here. So I jumped back in the cycle, got my little job, and I kept everything active. So when I relaunched, I was like, no more side gig. This is me. If you don't like me, don't show up. You're not my people. And that's where I'm at now. So I had to prove myself, but at the same time, I kind of already knew what I was stepping my foot into.
And there's
I kind of played the
that.
system.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you do, but it's like, why do I have to hide myself to be seen?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's so like, it's uncomfortable.
You know your target audience, right? And fortunately, it was really the similar people. You know, it was one type of middle-aged white woman. Just wasn't expecting to see this, you know, chocolate girl show up to her house, you know.
How about you, Nate, and within like cybersecurity and like being a black male, like, I mean, it's very male dominated, but you, like, do you feel like you've had to like prove yourself or have those skills been questioned?
Yeah, a lot. Especially being a black male and I look like I'm 12. So, you know.
You do look young.
Yeah. So, and it's crazy because they look at you like, oh, he's the lead, he's the senior. And these guys are retired military guys or very MAGA.
Good old boys. Yeah, good old boys.
Yeah, and it's like, and they're looking at you like, if you're in a room, like, how's his vernacular? Like, can he speak? Oh, then when he speaks, he speaks so well. He's so well spoken, you know, stuff like that. And it's like,
they didn't expect it.
Yeah, not expected, or they just question your motives, or just question, not your motive, they question like your competency. And you have to prove that. And it's subliminal. I think with women, especially women of color, unfortunately you guys deal with it worse because it's really blunt with you all. Sometimes with us, it's a little subtle, but it's there, and we feel it. We feel it too. So I've dealt with spaces like that, especially in the field.
Yeah. How is what you all are currently doing like help you heal and learn about self-love? Because there's some sense of like therapy and like representation that you all have to give off within your field.
I can say for me, like I've said this to Nate before too, one of my all-time favorite quotes is, you know, the other side of fear is yourself. And so for me, everything that I've had to do as being a single parent was really driven for my son. You know, he was literally my why for everything that I was doing, and having to, pull myself out of a whole disparity that I would say that I was in, So it was extremely empowering to, be a single parent, up and leave from here to DC with no family, just me and my son, go take a government job, and don't know anyone, and really just progress in my career. And it gave me way more confidence in seeing others around me that were doing the same thing. It just completely just opened the doors for me what I felt that I could do. So it was a very empowering feeling.
I feel extremely healed. This is probably the strongest mentally I've ever been in my life. So going back to that story, y'all heard it, I hid myself. And now my face is getting posted on my social media. And I will say my target audience is very diverse. But in the beginning, it was, a lot of, they were back, middle-aged white ladies were filling my art space. And I'll never forget when I first had a room full of middle-aged white ladies, and they were just kind of staring at me like, what are you gonna do? But they knew I was me, because I had started putting myself out there. And then by the end, we were all just having the best time, and that kept happening. And for me, it was like, never hide yourself again.
And I would say, like, from experience, your classes are so just therapeutic. I went to like a ink, it was like water ink, painting, and like before it was like this sound bath meditation. It was so just like, it's something you didn't even know you needed. Like, I'm just gonna go do art, but I'm like, I came out feeling so refreshed. So like, thank you for creating that space.
Thank you for attending.
Now what we're having with being able to have a cyber training school, I'm now able to pour into the community. I'm now able to help other single moms like me, and I can guide them and show them what I did to get out of that situation.
Wow.
And so that alone, like how you're saying, being able to just give back and know that it's impacting somebody is it's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
It definitely is, and I would say that's kind of where my self-love comes from, is from hearing just random posts and things that I'll do sometimes, or projects that I work on. And the wow factor for somebody to walk into a room, I did a surprise 30th birthday, and we draped the whole family room, and we opened up the curtains, and the wife cried because the husband did a surprise, all her girlfriends were there. But to see that moment, it's like, that's fulfilling for me, because I know I'm changing lives in just a little bit of things. Like, it's flowers
it's
and
memories.
it's things like that. But yeah, it's the memories, it's the
Memories.
pictures like you talked about before, like that people have, going forward in life, that it just brings me so much joy. Plus, being an entrepreneur, getting up in the morning.
The freedom.
I can say I don't wake up early. Again, I don't have kids. Y'all have kids. Y'all have to wake up early.
He's like,
Yes, we stretch and getting up. But having that option is like an amazing thing for me, to be able to
Create your own lane.
Like, I can go visit my 91-year-old grandma when I want to. Whereas before, when I was working and things like that, I wouldn't see her all the time, but now I can when I want to. So that's a part of where for me, it's like, it goes back to my self-love, because I'm able to give so much off of just the experience that I'm in now.
Yeah. What about you, Nate?
I think piggyback what Lena said is to be able to change lives. Like, you can see people who come from maybe some low and moderate situations, and they had no idea what they want to do in their life, and then be able to inculcate that into someone that you can do this. Like, I can't do it, that's so far-fetched. And then when they do it, and then you see the success, it's amazing, because we all won. It's like, we won because now you're able to change the whole generation. And you're able to close those wealth gaps, and you're able to create a discourse now where I can talk to somebody in my community that knows cyber. Or no, like, at first, it was just so minute because I didn't know anyone, or might have been one person. Now I'm building that area of discussion. So it's a beautiful situation when you're able to, like, tap into somebody else, and then you see them grow, and then they can give that to somebody else. So that's just the self-love.
Yeah, I hope anybody that's like watching today that wants to be in these fields, like, taps into these resources. I mean, and I think our generation is doing an amazing job of being the representation for these out of the box careers in these fields. But I think hoping a couple years down the line, it's not out of the box anymore. Like, this is normal. Like, it's normal to be a male event planner. It's normal to be an art therapist. It's normal to be a female or a black male in cybersecurity and IT. Like, it's not even, it shouldn't be so far-fetched, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
I appreciate y'all for joining the conversation today. Thank you all so much and continue to flourish, and wishing much success to you all. And thank y'all for watching. You can find more information about Before Brunch TV on our website and on social media at Before Brunch TV. We'll see you next time.